Brightline lost $493 million in 2024. Nearly $500 million gone in a single year. But before you start calling it a failure, remember this: even Amtrak lost money for decades. Same story for countless major transit systems around the world. The difference? Brightline isn't a public service, it's a private company. And for a private rail line, losing money long term isn't just inconvenient, it's unsustainable. So the real question is, can Brightline turn it around before the money runs out? And here's the thing, despite the massive losses, people are actually riding Brightline. In 2024, the company saw a 35% increase in ridership, with nearly 2.8 million passengers hopping on board. The new long-distance route between Miami and Orlando, that alone boosted travel numbers by over 400%. So clearly there's demand. People want faster and more comfortable alternatives to driving or flying across Florida. Brightline is at a ghost train, it's busy. But here's where the story gets complicated. Even with that surge in ridership, Brightline still reported a $493 million net loss in 2024. And it's not a one-time thing. The company's carrying a mountain of debt, over $5.1 billion. And while the long-distance Miami to Orlando route is booming, Brightline's shorter trips, like between Miami and West Palm Beach, have taken a hit. In October 2024, ridership on those routes was down 34% compared to the previous year. To cut costs, the company's been scaling back capacity on those short-haul trains, which makes it harder for regular commuters to justify the service, especially with rising ticket prices. Add to that a recent credit rating downgrade, and the financial pressure on Brightline is real. The company's got about $230 million in cash reserves, not small change, but not exactly a safety net for a business burning through hundreds of millions a year. And beyond the money, there's another problem. Brightline hasn't quite solved safety. Unlike most high-speed rail systems around the world that run on fully separated tracks, Brightline trains still cross dozens of roadways at street-level grade crossings. And that's a risky mix, especially in Florida, where some drivers treat traffic laws like vague suggestions. Since it started running, Brightline has had one of the highest rates of collisions per mile of any rail system in the country. Many of these involve cars or pedestrians trying to outrun a train moving at 125 miles per hour. To their credit, Brightline's invested in better warning systems, fencing, and public safety campaigns, but without fully separated tracks, the risk never fully disappears. It's one of those weird contradictions, a relatively modern train system still stuck dealing with old-school infrastructure problems. Despite the financial hurdles, Brightline isn't hitting the brakes on expansion. The company has its sights set on new stations, including one in Cocoa, aiming to connect Florida's Space Coast. There's also a proposed extension to Tampa, which could transform Brightline into a true statewide rail network. But here's the catch. These ambitious plans come with a hefty price tag. And unlike many transit projects, Brightline cannot count on state support. Governor Ron DeSantis has made it clear that Florida won't allocate taxpayer money for Brightline expansion, stating, "We're not going to be on the hook as a state with taxpayers for doing trains." This stance means Brightline must rely heavily on private investment and federal grants. However, securing such funding isn't guaranteed. For instance, the city of Cocoa recently missed out on a federal grant to support its proposed station, highlighting the uncertainties Brightline faces in financing its growth. So while the vision is expansive, the path forward is fraught with financial challenges. Brightline's ability to navigate these obstacles will determine whether it can realize its goal of revolutionizing travel across Florida. So where does that leave Brightline? On one hand, it's a bold, modern rail service in a country that desperately needs better transit options. Ridership is up, people are using it, and the demand is clearly there. On the other hand, it's a private company burning through cash, tangled in the challenges of American infrastructure, and chasing ambitious expansions without a clear financial safety net. The next few years are going to decide everything, whether Brightline becomes a model for modern American rail or a cautionary tale about going too big, too fast. Either way, it's one of the most interesting transportation experiments happening in the US right now. And the question is, will it be the future of travel, or is it another headline in Florida? Thank you for watching. It was a shorter video today, but I appreciate you sticking to the end. I would love to hear what y'all think about the future of Brightline down in the comments. Anyways, if you're interested in high-speed rail, particularly in Florida, please watch my other video on the topic. I think it's a great video. I would greatly appreciate it. Anyways, as always, thank you for watching.